international team of investigators that North Korea was behind the sinking of a South Korean Navy vessel in which 46 sailors were killed. The U.S. Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, flew to the region last week in an effort to defuse the tension between North and South, both of whom are armed with nuclear weapons. And China, too, has urged restraint and calm, all too aware that regional stability is threatened by the belligerent and unpredictable nature of North Korea. It's extremely unusual for a Western journalist to enter North Korea, generally regarded as the most secretive and isolated country on earth. But Sue Lloyd-Roberts managed to negotiate her way in to try to find out what is going on there.
With the last of the great dictators, lines of young pioneers on parade, a distant glimpse of a remote Politburo, and goose-stepping soldiers. North Korea is so 20th century, and yet with nuclear weapons and at war with the South, a very real threat to the 21st. It was a rare opportunity to visit the most secretive country on earth. But with everything either stage-managed or prohibited...
You don't like his bicycle? What's wrong with his bicycle?
Would it be possible to find out what is really going on inside the Democratic People's Republic of Korea? We were invited for the celebrations of the great leader's birthday, the founder of the country, Kim Il-sung. Although he died in 1994, his birthday is the most revered day in the calendar. Only those with impeccable politically correct backgrounds are allowed to live here in the capital, Pyongyang. And, not surprisingly, they all march to the same tune.
Not only did our great leader liberate our country, build it up and make us the happiest people on earth, but he's the most respected among world leaders.
The birthday is marked by a public holiday and floral offerings, confusing to the outsider, even in this country of the bizarre.
Today is his birthday.
I realize that, and so you're giving him flowers.
Yeah, it's the whole heart of people.
But I believe he's dead.
Yes, he had passed away in 1994. 16 years have passed since then.
And the fact that you give him flowers today, does this mean that you think he is a god, that he is immortal?
Yes, he is the immortal person, eternal father of our Korean people. We don't think that he passed away.
And so the great leader is president for life and the afterlife, while his son, Kim Jong-il, the dear leader, is head of the ruling Korean Workers' Party and in charge of running things in this life. He recently announced that he has a son in waiting and that the hereditary communist dictatorship is set to continue.
Thousands have been mobilized to mark this important day, and we saw scenes of genuine adoration and grief among those invited to view the embalmed remains of the president in the mausoleum behind, where we weren't allowed to film. But what is the rest of the country thinking, and how are they living outside this city of the elite?
The great leader ruled that the army should always come first, and it was fitting that we drove first to the most fortified border in the world, with our minders forever at our sides, down an empty 6-lane motorway. One thing we might all envy here, the lack of private cars means no traffic jams. No peace treaty was ever agreed at the end of the Civil War in 1953, and North and South Korea are still technically at war, with 1 million troops from either side based along the demilitarized zone, with 30,000 Americans in between.
I was warned by the North Korean officer in charge that if I put my foot over the white line, I'd be tackled by his men, and if I made it to the next line, I'd be shot by the Americans. I expected to find more tension here after the North was accused recently of sinking a South Korean naval ship, but it all looked very quiet.
It's Sunday, and we all take a rest on Sunday.
A good day to invade.
When the Americans started the war, when they invaded us in 1950, it was also a Sunday. They thought they'd sweep through the country in one day, but during the 3-year war they got a good beating. And if they try and invade again, we'll give them an even greater beating than they got in the 1950s.
At the military museum here, George Orwell would recognize the rewriting of history by the Ministry of Truth. In fact, it was North Korean troops who crossed the line in 1950 and thereby triggered a bloody war. But then Orwell also understood the need for a government to keep a people in constant fear of an enemy, to better endure hardship at home. With a population of 23 million, North Korea has a standing army of more than 1 million. 1 in 20 are in uniform. In a country desperately short of food, the army gets priority. 1/3 of people here suffer from stunted growth. After the famine of the 1990s, they had to abandon the 5 foot 3 inches minimum height required for a soldier. I asked to visit a farm to look at how the country feeds itself. And at breakneck speed, we drove past towns and villages in various stages of dilapidation. I didn't see a single tractor in the hour it took to get here to the cooperative farm, which our minders had chosen. On the way here, we saw a lot of other villages which didn't look quite so tidy and neat and orderly and indeed wealthy. Can we visit them? Is that possible? No? No, this was a regular village, I was told, and to prove it, we'd visit a regular home. Wonderful. And the gentleman's medals? You wear them every day? It was explained that the medals and the feast were because the head of the household was 60 today and retiring. Clearly some confusion here. I am 59, I still work on the farm, and I normally eat noodles for lunch, he announced, before returning to the script.
Thanks to the kindness of the great leader, he built civilized housing for all of us and then made this a mechanized model farm, and we are proud of all these things.
There was not much sign of mechanization at the model farm, though a lot of effort was going into painting political slogans. When a tractor eventually drove into sight, the chief man here, Mr. Joe, appeared to be trying to hide something from the camera. He told the tractor, bearing the European Union logo, to drive away. After all, the country claims to be self-sufficient in everything, even food. Mr. Joe, even your tractor, I saw, was donated by the European Union, so the country is not surviving without aid. As was to happen time and time again, my minder refused to translate. Shall I say that again? Do you not understand the question?
I can understand, but it's going to...
I'm sure Mr. Joe knows all this. It's not a surprise to him. In the end, they negotiated an acceptable response.
다른 지역들에서도 그에 대해서도 좀 얘기해 주시는데 다른 농장이라든가 다른 지역들에서도 뭐 이러한 어려움들이 있겠는가?
We had problems for a short time, but with our own industry and output, we can produce enough crops on our own without any support from outside.